Sunday, we'll be back at it with regular traffic patterns. Right now, though, nice and green through Queens and Brooklyn. FDR Drive is a little bit busy heading up to the Williamsburg Bridge, a little slow at the Battery Tunnel getting in and out of Lower Manhattan, but the big picture is a good one. Street cleaning rules are suspended for today. They'll stay that way all weekend.
Some rain and even some snow expected this morning, but with little to no accumulation. Even though the winds have died down, it will become breezy at times later on this afternoon as the wet conditions come to an end. Highs expected to top out at about 55 degrees. For tonight, there is a chance of showers after midnight with lows dipping into the upper 30s. Now, the clouds will stick around tomorrow. Slight chance of showers as well. Expect a high of 43 degrees. Then the sunshine returns on Sunday along with the unseasonably chilly conditions. And finally, there's a chance of more showers early next week.
Weather on the Ones is sponsored by Tri-Honda dealers. Be ready for whatever the Tri-State throws your way. Stop into your local Tri-Honda dealer today and test drive the perfect model for you.
Make tossing and turning a thing of the past when you discover the power of Tempur-Pedic sleep at Raymore and Flanigan. With Tempur-Pedic's pressure-relieving comfort, you'll fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up ready for anything. Raymore and Flanigan offers up to 72 months no-interest financing. Plus, get your new Tempur-Pedic tomorrow with Raymore and Flanigan's free next-day mattress delivery, 7 days a week. Raymore and Flanigan, your elite Tempur-Pedic retailer.
How do you feel when you look in the mirror?
It felt heavy and I looked heavy. It's hard sometimes to believe it's me.
Do you wish you could have slimmer hips, thighs, and a flat stomach? Now you can. America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist, Sonobello, has made it easier and more affordable than ever to get the body you've always wanted. Using advanced microlaser technology, our board-certified plastic surgeons remove hard-to-lose fat in as little as 1 day.
I look in mirrors now and I'm like, dang, that girl looks good.
For your free no-obligation consultation, call 800-949-6044 and get $250 towards looking your very best.
The best investment you can make is in yourself. 100%. I wish I would have done it sooner.
Call now and get $250 off. Payment plans are available. Don't wait one more day. For a free consultation, call 800-949-6044 now.
What makes New York special? What makes New York the capital of the world? What truly sets New York apart? The culture. On Spotlight New York, we take you inside all 5 boroughs, overflowing with the best in arts and entertainment, connecting you to the people, art, food, architecture, and performances that bring the city to life, that make New York, New York.
Spotlight New York, Saturdays and Sundays at 7 on New York One.
We are about 15 minutes into this final trading session for the week. The Dow plummeting triple digits at the open. I'm Karina Mitchell with Money on One. Let's check the numbers right now. The Dow is off by 164 points, the S&P lower by 14, and the NASDAQ off by 34 points. Samsung Electronics estimated its first quarter operating profit jumped 56% to a record high, likely due in part to the still strong demand for its memory chips, outweighing lower display sales to Apple. The South Korean tech giant said in its preliminary earnings report that its January through March operating income was an estimated $14.7 billion. The estimate was higher than expected. Sales also rose 19%. And Netflix is going big, attempting its largest acquisition ever, offering more than $300 million to acquire a company that owns billboards across Hollywood's famed Sunset Strip. That's according to Reuters. Netflix is just one of the bidders for the Los Angeles-based company called Regency Outdoor Advertising, and there's no certainty that the bid will prevail. However, the move illustrates the commitment the streaming media company has to securing physical advertising assets as it steps up its marketing efforts. Billboards are holding their own compared to other forms of traditional advertising like ads in newspapers or TV that are easy to skip over. And that is Money on One. I'm Karina Mitchell.
Here's a look at some of what's in the papers on this Friday morning. So finally, Donald Trump says something about Stormy Daniels. He talked to reporters briefly on Air Force One. It was the deny of the Stormy, according to the Daily News. He didn't actually directly talk about the porn star or the affair. He told reporters that he wasn't aware that his lawyer had paid off the porn star. So in the Daily News, there are kind of two sections to the coverage of the police shooting. First, the video clips that tell the story of what was happening before the shooting, and you can see from that the still image there and the others that we've been showing you that clearly it looked like Saheed Vassell has a silver gun in his hand, and that is why people felt like they were in danger and called 911. The Daily News editorial writers, after viewing those videos, say, from what we know so far, it seems officers made a justifiable split-second decision. But then they take another turn on pages 6 and 7 with coverage from the neighborhood perspective that people with a mentally ill family member will be reluctant to call for police help because they're not sure if officers will take time to understand the situation before opening fire.
Okay, it's hold on. Okay, it's April 6, 2018 at 9:47 a.m. It's drizzling. We're looking out the window of 255 West 43rd Street at the Twin Chimneys belonging to John's Pizzeria, and their entrance to the public is located at 260 West 44th Street. So I have to go to breakfast. This is going to be truly brief. So once again, it's April 6, 2018. Now it's 9:48 a.m. It was smoking much heavier. A few minutes ago I took some still pictures.
To make our point that China's illegal activity in trade and elsewhere can no longer be tolerated. Blame China for not playing ball. Don't blame the president. He's standing up for American companies and business. That's my take. I don't see how I can communicate that more clearly.
Hey Larry, you're a good sport, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming on the program and giving us your time. And hopefully, Larry, you'll be back in front of the camera with me next month. Larry Kudlow, National Economic Council Director, we appreciate his time. Around the table with me, Ed Yardeni of Yardeni Research, Rick Reeder at BlackRock, and of course Michael Collins from PGIM. Did you get the clarity you needed, Rick?
I think the markets rightly didn't really move a lot on it. I think at the end of the day, the uncertainty around the numbers, the quantitative, when you get a number overnight, 100 billion, there should be another 100 billion, or there were numbers thrown around before to the tune of almost $1.5 trillion at one point. It's the numbers and how we're going to get there. It's the uncertainty and the ambiguity around it that are hard, and they're just really difficult, and there's no closure on timing either, which makes it really tricky. And by the way, I think something that he said that I think is really impactful. A lot of this, there was a lot of discussion about aluminum and steel. There was a lot of discussion around the transmission into NAFTA. Technology is a really big deal here, and I think when people talk about I'm certain whether it's data flow, whether it's IP, whether it's technology influence in the world going forward, that is.
And the irony of this all, as we sit around this table, and Larry Kudlow is incredibly defensive about what the president's doing. We spent the whole week talking about how China is a problem. The real debate is about how they get results and what the approach is. And I find it really amazing that the administration spends so much time still trying to justify the problem. Now, if they're spending spending this much time justifying the problem, there must be a communication problem somewhere, because everyone understands that China's the problem. That's not what this is about. It's about the approach and when you can get results.
Look, I read the USTR report. It's 180 pages, and it's a pretty quick read, actually, because it kind of tells you, makes a list of all the grievances, and they all seem pretty legitimate.
They all are.
They all, well, yes and no. I mean, I heard Steve Roach, I think he was on maybe on Bloomberg yesterday, kind of saying, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and to believe that Americans are going to go over there and just getting ripped off, without getting anything in return, is a little bit naive. But I think you're right. I think that the administration has to basically say that, we've presented our grievances. Now we need the Chinese to indicate how they're going to meet our grievances and allay them.
I would throw out one thing. I mean, there's a tangible strategy around that now we're going to create change, and you start from an extreme and negotiate your way back, which is something that the president has done in his career. And that is a legitimate strategy. And so part of what the markets, I think, will ultimately get comfortable with is you'll get to a resting place that'll be a reasonable point of view. It's just when you get on certain comments and sizes and retaliatory comments out of China overnight that create this ambiguity and uncertainty that are just hard.
Well, Larry's become a very important personality at the White House in very short order. I mean, just a couple of days ago, the market rallied dramatically after he made some comments. I kind of view him as the sort of a one-man plunge protection committee.
It's found that way.
And market just came roaring right back. And I think it was partly because the market got the impression from Larry that there actually are negotiations going on. And the impression I just got from listening to Larry is that's not the case.
No, and the Chinese, Michael Collins, saying the same thing. That is not the case. We're not there yet. We are not having official negotiations whatsoever.
Yeah, I think one thing that markets are trying to grapple with, right, from a macroeconomic standpoint, this may not be a big deal at the end of the day, but one thing that is a challenge is looking at the microeconomic aspects, right? Different companies, different industries, maybe positively or negatively impacted, and that's what's creating some of the market volatility. You're seeing a lot more of a dichotomy between different companies and sectors.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the Chinese have made it very clear that by 2025 they want to be the world's economic powerhouse in terms of technology. And the reality is they have been taking some of the technology from us directly. They've obviously invented some on their own. But this is a state mandate that they do want to be premier in technology. And so I think there is actually a lot of tension here between the United States and China because we both realize the importance of technology to national security.
Rick, there's an interesting ambiguity. We started this week with Amazon and what it meant in terms of technology in the U.S. and whether that was positive or negative. And then we end the week with China and the discussion around technology. It's a little interesting in very different streams of thought around that, which I think will probably pervade the discussion for a period of time.
I do want to get to Larry Kudlow, the National Economic Council Director, did say to me about the timing and whether negotiations were even taking place. If you missed the interview, take a listen to this.
We're going to have several months open discussion. People will submit comments. The public will submit comments. They will be reviewed by the USTR and elsewhere. And at that point, I don't want to put a deadline on it. I'll use the phrase couple months. The administration will then make a decision.
Just to wrap things up, guys, I think this is going to be the big problem as we progress through the weekend. We wait for the Chinese to respond. The Chinese only wait to see whether Mr. Lighthizer does consider that $100 billion an extra tariffs and what goods that gets put on. Then I assume the Chinese come out with their own proposals and we have this war of proposals. And for the time being, Rick, we're going to have a period of time, beyond 60 days, I assume, beyond several months, where we don't know if any of these proposals become policy. Now, how damaging is that going to be to one or two things or both? One, risk appetite in financial markets, and two, the broader economy.
So I'd say there are two things. There is first, there's only one way to invest around this. You fade the extremes. Once you go to the extremes and the markets are on one side and really reacting aggressively one way, you're supposed to fade it. The uncertainty, though, is not going to go away. But one thing you have to think about, the liquidity in the markets is harder. So what happens is people don't want to take a lot of risk, so you fade the extremes. You do it in a more moderate size you've done before, full stop. The thing around transmission in the economy, that the longer this goes on, is CapEx has been accelerating. And the one thing you've got to be really careful about is how companies think about their international business, how they think about their trade flows, how they think about their input costs. And that's the thing that we've got to be really careful, because CapEx is in a pretty good place today, and we got to make sure that doesn't start coming off.
Michael Collins?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Rick. In our portfolios, we're doing exactly that. When you get the big backups in rates, because everybody's euphoric, right, or backup in spreads from whether it's forced selling or concerns about credit risk, we're generally stepping in and buying those and taking advantage of those opportunities. And then when you get the flight to quality, I think you're supposed to take some off.
I think the issue here with regards to the trade talk is whether it becomes background noise or whether it just becomes shouting.
Yeah.
And if it becomes shouting and it's clearly not leading in a positive direction, it's going to be bad for the markets. But I think it's going to become background noise. I think it's in everybody's interest to keep it that way. And I think you made a very good point, Rick, which is that, let's watch CEO confidence. I mean, there are surveys of that. And it soared to a record high after the tax cut. But now they're going to be rethinking about, Trump helped us on the tax side, but now he may hurt us on the trade side.
Have you had any research? To Rick Reader of BlackRock and Michael Collins of PGIM, thank you. And speaking of shouting, I should apologise if there was too much shouting on this programme in the previous 30 minutes. In the markets, about 26 minutes into the session, the story cross-asset looks like this. Equities softer, we're off the lows, we're down a third of 1%, the Dow off by 0.4%. In the bond market, a bid comes into Treasuries post-payrolls, the bid sticks, yields are low by 3 basis points at 281. The euro showing some strength against the dollar, the yen as well. From New York, this was the countdown to the open. This is Bloomberg TV.
Welcome to Holiday Inn. Thank you. Wait, I have something for you.
Every stay is a special stay at Holiday Inn. Save up to 15% when you book early at holidayinn.com.
I'm really big on knowing why I'm doing something based on some kind of science. Up till about 8th grade, I was actually very overweight, and the only way it was going to change is if it started with me. Down, up. The most gratifying part of training others for me is being able to see that transformation take place in them, much like it happened to me back in 8th grade. I really wanted to see what was in me, what has been in me since the day I was born, especially as it relates to health and fitness. That is why I did 23andMe. I'm after optimal health. I'm after inspiring others through the actions that I do. I'm always looking for those kind of things that can help me progress forward as just a healthy person and as an athlete. Being able to appreciate what you were born with on day one, what makes you you, that appreciation, it's a sense of peace that you don't get anywhere else.
Know your body. Understand your DNA with 23andMe. Order your Health Plus Ancestry Kit today at 23andme.com.
Money is like life. You have to decide how to get the most from it. So we made you some simple, free tools to help you see how what you do today will affect your tomorrow. Which means you can make smart choices about how to spend your money and your life.
Why did she borrow $42,000 for tuition? Why did she borrow $19,400 for room and board? Why did she borrow $1,100 for student fees and $250 for a graduation gown? She did it to work for you. And now you can do something for her with a job benefit that helps your employees pay off their student loans. Gratify is gratitude.
The Spectrum TV app. TV the way you want it. Watch live TV at home and on the go. Anywhere, anytime. Catch the latest movies and TV shows with access to over 30,000 on-demand titles, many for free. Even schedule and manage your DVR recordings. The Spectrum TV app is now available on more devices than ever before. Watch what you want on the device you want. Download the Spectrum TV app today.
At the Vein Treatment Center, we treat veins in the legs, hands, face, and breast. Founded by Dr. Navarro, the Vein Treatment Center focuses solely on vein treatment. Dr. Navarro pioneered patented techniques to make treating spider and varicose veins faster and pain-free. At the Vein Treatment Center, we develop new techniques to remove unsightly veins more quickly and with better aesthetic results. Call the Vein Treatment Center for your free consultation today.
It's 10 a.m. in New York, 3 p.m. in London, and 10 p.m. in Hong Kong. From New York, I'm Bonnie Quinn.
And live from London, I'm Mark Barton. Welcome to Bloomberg Morning.
we are covering from the Bloomberg and around the world. Global markets on the decline as trade tensions rise once again. The U.S. now apparently considering tariffs on an additional $100 billion worth of Chinese goods. U.S. payrolls rose less than forecast, and there was a revision to the previous month. Wages, though, did pick up. It's a jobs report that perhaps keeps the Federal Reserve on track for more interest rate hikes. And the Trump administration turns up the heat on Russia, slapping sanctions on 7 Russian tycoons and 17 government officials, including key allies of President Vladimir Putin. We'll assess the consequences. But we are 30 minutes into this Friday trading session and non-farm payrolls trading session. Abigail Doolittle is here. What's been going on?
Well, we are looking at declines for the major averages, Vonnie. This after 3 days of gains for the major averages, but lots of volatility on the week. And as Vonnie was talking about, lots of this has to do with the possibility of a trade war. Last night, President Trump did ask his staff to consider $100 billion worth of tariffs against China. China came back saying that they won't tolerate that they will go to any length to fight this possible trade war. So investors jittery on this, and mixed non-farm payrolls report not helping either. But let's take a look at a 5-day chart of the S&P 500, because we are going to see over the last 5 days, despite the massive swings for the stocks, we do have the S&P 500 up about 0.4% right now, on pace for a second week in a row higher. On Monday, though, down on Amazon and President Trump attacking that company. On Tuesday, some mixed action here. On Thursday, we had been down on the possibility of a trade war, and then relief. Yesterday, a big relief over the possibility that it's not going to happen, a trade war, and then today a little bit of a dip. But again, on the week, net, we are just slightly higher. Let's take a look at some of those industrial names, though, that are impacted by the possibility of a near-term trade war. Boeing, General Motors, and Deere. Now, Boeing down 1% on the day, and Deere as well, also sharply lower. GM finding a little bit of solid ground here, but these companies could really be affected from either decreased demand and the possibility of rising input prices. Now, relative to what it could have sparked President Trump wanting his staff to consider $100 billion in additional tariffs, if we hop into the Bloomberg and take a look at a chart here of the trade gap, you can see this in the Bloomberg by going to GTV, we see that the trade gap for the month of February, first of all, it missed estimates, but nearly $58 billion. That's the worst level that we've had since 2008. And during President Trump's taking office, we have now had the trade gap worsen, fall, become bigger over the last 7 months. So that could be one reason for wanting those moves. And then quickly, Mark, we're looking very weak here for the biotech sector, something to keep in mind here. The biotech index, as you can see, underperforming in a big way, down about 1%. That's a pretty decent weighting to the NASDAQ. And we see some of these genomic names sharply lower, in particular Insight Genomics, this after its melanoma study in conjunction with Merck failed a late-stage study. Investors not liking it. A sea of red here, Mark.
Abigail, we are 90 minutes away from the end of the shortened trading week here in Europe. We're a little change, marginally low. We just dipped our head above green a few moments ago. We're down by about a 20th of 1%. Earlier, we were 0.6 of 1% lower. So those trade concerns once again falling away in the afternoon. We are down for the third day in 4, though, after the biggest one-day rise yesterday since June 2016. We're on track for the second straight weekly gain, the best stretch since February the 23rd. I want to show you this chart. The difference between the Stoxx 600 and the S&P. The sell-off in US tech shares means that European stocks are now the least correlated with their US peers since before the financial crisis, which is exactly what this chart
Third. Okay, I'll meet you. Okay, I'll be right back.